Hey everybody, it's Michael Wagner here at Omnia once again as we sit down and consider the source. This is the second part of a two-parter. I'm here with Eran and Sandhaus, an impact investing expert with J Ventures out in California. In our first video, we talked about the landscape and sort of the why behind impact investing. In this video, we're going to go a little more in depth, a little more in the weeds into sort of the what and the how. Now, there's a lot of different flavors of impact investing. Specifically, I'd love to hear what makes venture impact investing different than other stages of impact investing.
Okay, great question, Michael. So, what to say, if you take a look at the world of social investing in general, there's $30 trillion today under management. Okay, major funds like TPG and Bain and other put a lot of money there. And most of it goes around ESG. Okay, environmental, social, and governance. You have index funds that go and invest in, basically companies, some of them public, that that are well managed. Okay, let's put it this way.
Sure.
When you start to take a look at the world of impact investing, that's a subset. It's close to $700 billion out of the 30 trillion. In that area, if you take a look at the global impact investing network, okay, a group called the GIN, they define impact investing as the intent to both, to do positive social and environmental impact while also creating financial returns. Okay, so it's the idea of doing both.
And then specifically venture, right? So you're looking for early stage. We said that the larger companies are well run. I wouldn't say that the venture, maybe they need some coaching and guidance. Are there issues with the data that you need in the venture stage? Like, how do you, or is it helping maybe companies discover that, hey, you know what, you may not think you're an impact company, but you actually are. So how do you play a role in that sort of identity, creation and discovery process?
Right, excellent question. So first of all, there's thousands of startups being formed every single year globally. And when you take a look at them, many of them, by the way, are, many of them are already starting as impact companies. So they're out to do good and do well, okay, financially and environmentally, socially. Some of them start out by having an idea that could be impactful. So for example, when we meet and talk to such companies, and a lot of them are early stage, I can tell them, well, look, you have the product and you have the idea of where you're going. Well, what if you could triple your market if you're going to this area, triple your population that you address, and also, by the way, get non-dilutive funding while you're doing these grants. So, there is actually a role to play in early stage impact investing, okay, to increase the overall base of companies that will be out to do good and do well. So there's a little bit of an active element to it.
Sure. And how do you find these companies? Is it speed dating? Like what's the, the mechanism there?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, specifically, for many of investors, it's all about the network. Okay, for the group that I'm part of, we have a very large network of individuals that are set globally, and as a result, we see companies, on a weekly basis. So just to give you, the averages on a weekly basis, we see on a monthly basis, I would say like hundreds of companies. Okay. In some cases, individually, I get to see between 20 to 25 companies a week. Wow. Okay, so it's and again, those are globally sourced. We have people that are sitting out in Europe, in Israel, in even Latin America, of course, in North America.
Sure.
And when we see something that is good, they basically send it our way.
This is going to be a very open-ended question, but I imagine technology, broadly speaking, has such an impact, right? In your day-to-day life, you're reviewing companies all over the planet. I imagine technology plays a big part in that process, but also in the companies themselves. How does technology play a role in really that whole ecosystem?
Right. When you take a look at the impact, really the intent is to make a difference in the world. Start to think about technology. What happened to us individually in the last 20 years? Okay, so first of all, the one thing that the biggest category is that there's 8 billion phones on the planet. We didn't have a smartphone. So now all of us are sitting on a single connected network. Now, if you start to think what that means, that's all technology. Right? Apple, Google, etc. created, funneled, etc. Now, start to think what happened on top of it. We now have a very big trend of artificial intelligence on top of it. So you now have a machine that's capable of doing artificial intelligence in your pocket. Well, what does that mean? Now, with the right set of companies, you can now do, you can detect, for example, certain medical conditions and you can do it from your phone and have the cloud actually analyze it and then give information over to the doctor to figure out what you need. So people with no access can now have access. So technology has this quality of, if it's done well, it could be ubiquitous, it can be very scalable, and it can be cheaper to deploy compared to a lot of other stuff. It could be globalized very quickly. And so those are great breeding grounds for when you put in money, you can see a very wide impact in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's really fascinating when you think about it. It's not just a pocket computer you're carrying around all the time. It's really a sensor platform, right? High quality, high definition cameras, the accelerometers, location data. I mean, there's really a lot of information that can be used, yes, for impact in the world, but also, as we've seen, such a great business case for so many of these companies. I imagine you see so many really compelling and frankly cool stories. Do you have any that you love to share?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. That's actually the most exciting part is the companies and what they do.
Love to hear
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I take a look, there's a few companies that I've seen and that we're excited about. So there's a company that is out whenever there are accidents between two vehicles. Instead of just first responders coming to the scene trying to figure out what happened and wasting a lot of valuable time, they send information from the vehicle to the cloud on the collision, what happened to the individual, every single individual in the car. So first responders come to the scene, they know what to expect. And they bring the right doctor with them, they bring the right equipment, and they get people to the right hospital. And this has the potential of saving 30 to 50% of the serious accidents.
Wow.
Now they're using sensor technology, they're using AI, they're using signal processing, all of those things that before you couldn't marry the vehicle, the cloud, and get that information out. So this is brand new stuff, cutting edge.
Yeah.
I see other companies taking AI in a different direction. There's an interesting company using AI to help people with mental disorders. Think about mental disorders is huge and rampant. In the last couple of years with COVID and everything else, the need for therapists is going through the roof. They have technology that can help increase the effectiveness of therapy by 60%. And they're starting with PTSD. So people that went through trauma, those are usually very hard to treat.
Yeah.
What they do is they put them in front of a computer, and the person goes to a simulation that kind of gets them in a stressful mode.
Okay.
And they have a cap, like a cap on the head. And with that, they're able to measure the brain activity in the part of the brain that is responsible for fight or flight.
Wow.
That's the place that gets hyperactive if something is, if you're under stress. And what happened is they took the technology from multi-million-dollar machines that are in hospitals that can detect these kind of things. They now brought it down to a laptop or a computer for a few $1,000s. You can put it in the clinic. And the result is people can now view for the first time, they can see their own mental state.
Wow.
They can visualize it, and through a simulation, they can start to now control it in stressful environments, and they teach themselves, this is self-advocacy, they teach themselves to be able to calm down themselves in a stressful situation, and that lives with them in real life. They've already done trials, they publish in Nature magazine. I mean, this is a real thing, and that's going to be deployed, with the potential of impacting millions of people globally.
No, it's fascinating. It truly is an amazing time to be alive, right? Because we have this commoditization of what 15, 20 years ago were really advanced technologies. And in all of these cases, it's having a positive impact in the world, but also there's a great business case for all of these things, right? So when you talk about the car accident technology, I imagine you might have a natural market there in insurance companies.
Right.
When it comes to the mental health issue, that could be, I assume, clinicians and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity out there of incredible business models and the potential for great returns, married with the potential for great impact and making this world a better place. And I think that's just so cool.
Yeah, why choose, right?
Right.
If you can put your money into something that does good, why wouldn't you? Right? All those companies, by the way, as you mentioned, the first one with the medical thing, I mean, they have insurance companies working with them. They have insurance companies, buying the product. I mean, this is a great scalable model where they make money. And, the other one that does the mental disorder, they already have, there's specific codes that could be used that are reimbursable, inside of the medical network. So this is a real business.
Right. And then, look, for as long as I've been doing this, I've paid a lot of attention to impact or ESG. And I feel like in the last few years, they've become much more of a common conversation topic, right? This is something people are talking about. This is something people are thinking about. First, I'm wondering if that jives with your experience, that people are more open to talking about these things and, see the potential for dollar return plus an impact up to now. And then I'd also really love to hear where you think impact investing is going. Floor is yours.
Sure. Yeah. So, the first thing I would say, actually, let's start with where things are going.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You start to take a look at it. It's starting to become an expectation now. Before it was something people didn't think about.
Right.
Now it's something people think about, and the next thing is going to become an expectation. And what I mean by that is maybe a few years ago when when people thought about impact investing or social investing, they were thinking about these like tree huggers in California.
Right.
Okay.
Hippy dippy.
Those individuals. Okay, that's not the case now.
Right.
Okay, people think about, okay, there's an expectation. Okay, if I invest in this company, I want it to behave well. And, I'll give you an indication, like Apple, committed, for example, to be zero carbon emission by 2030. Why would they do that? Well, obviously they want to do well, but it's obviously now starting to become the expectation. Like large funds like TPG Capital and others and Bain, etc. They are pushing that agenda as a criteria. They're saying we will not invest in companies that will not be positive. So that's happening. Now, the next piece is that this is becoming an expectation. Okay. Of course, I look at investors, but when you think about millennials, think
Right.
about retail investors and all this stuff, and even professional investors that are millennials, they're expecting to see the money do good. They
Right.
don't want their money to go for things that are ruining their environment and are going to kill off their future.
It was another question of mine. How much of this is a demographic shift? Is it, driven by millennials? I know a lot of boomers are also very excited about these topics. So I'm a millennial myself, but, I'm curious to see what your experience there has been.
So once people are exposed to it,
Yeah,
they want it.
sure.
Okay, but if I take a look at general, millennials are typically more exposed to like social platforms. They see things faster, they adopt it faster, and they know that the plant is in deep condition, and they're going to stay with it. They're
Right.
thinking about what's going to be our reality for ourselves and for our kids. So for millennials, it's clearly a trend. And when you take a look at different populations, okay, that are before the millennials,
Right.
okay, baby boomers, etc. For them, a lot of it is about the legacy.
Yeah,
Okay, like what do they want to leave behind?
right.
And many of them, they made the investment, thinking that they want to leave, of course, money and assets for the family. But once they start to realize that they can also do good with it, like, why not? Absolutely,
Right.
they want their grandkids to be in the better world, right?
And that ties back into the earlier conversation about philanthropy, impact investing being related. There's some overlap. But at the end of the day, impact investing is still about, I think, return plus that positive impact on the world. With philanthropy, you're not expecting to get your money back, right? So I think you do see a lot of that in various generations. But yes, it's always an interesting conversation. Not to skip over the Gen Xers or anything like that either, because they're definitely part of the conversation as well. But like definitely, there's been a lot of focus on the baby boomers, the millennials, that passing of wealth between generations, and now we're all waking up to that next generation, the Gen Zs, and how that's gonna play out as
Right.
well.
I mean, one more thing to add on that, I would say that's probably the place where all the generations kind of meet, because it's a common agenda.
Yes.
Okay, like a lot of stuff, people have different agendas on different topics, things that they believe in, but like who doesn't want to have a positive impact
Right.
on the world? I mean, that's a place that I definitely see a conversation starting to centralize.
No, look, and frankly, in my personal life, when I talk to my friends about like investing and all of that, a lot of times like that may fall on deaf ears, but what they're really interested in is more of the impact side. That's a conversation that people seem to be excited to have. I've seen that with my group of friends, but also talking to clients. This is absolutely something that can bring families together to determine like, okay, what impact do we want to have in the world as a family? And it's a beautiful multi-generational conversation that you can have with your kids or your parents and grandparents about this topic. And it's a great way to get your kids interested in the family wealth. And it's a great way to sort of backdoor that conversation. So a little bit of, my take on some of this stuff as well.
Right. Michael, you actually asked me earlier about like what the future is going to look like on impact.
Yes, go ahead.
So I want to draw some correlates, to kind of give you an idea. So let's talk for a second about energy. 100 years ago, when we wanted to have 1 hour of light, we had to send a human being to go get kerosene, put it in a lamp, and all of us would sit across. That was a very expensive operation, very manual.
Sure.
Today, we flip on the switch, we get it. Usually, it used to be like 10, 15 kilowatt, like a cents per kilowatt.
Right.
The future, we're talking about 1 cent per kilowatt. Okay, we're talking about renewable energy, cheap and efficient energy. And by the way, green as well is on the, it's going to be a big part of that. And when you start to think about what does it mean to have a 1 cent clean kilowatt per hour energy, it means that energy costs are free. You can really manufacture anything. You can go anywhere. Okay, that is a profound, way of shaping the world. The second thing is you think about AI, artificial intelligence. Human beings, we're great with intuition. We're great with communication, understanding context. Machines are fantastic with analyzing data.
Right.
Okay, now when you start to marry both of them, a field that I came from was self-driving cars. Right. But the same thing is happening with medical. It's happening with anywhere that computers can augment the human capability. And again, that is a profound element because as human beings, we're not very good to retain all the information or remember everything that happened and be up to speed on the latest research on anything. Now, through the use of AI, we can put at the fingerprints of human beings, like the entire information, the entire planet in a way that's actionable. And again, there are companies that are out there monetizing that. When you take a look at electrification that I mentioned before, the shift, vehicles today contribute 8 to 9% of carbon emissions in the world. That's a big figure. There is absolutely a fundamental shift to zero emissions. Volvo and many other companies have committed that they're going to move everything to be fully electric in the future. What it means is ample opportunities for startups, to create new batteries, like all new methods for that, managing the infrastructure, the coordination between the vehicles and charging. All of that is, again, the large corporations, they're moving in that direction. A lot of them need help, and they acquire and they invest and they support, smaller companies that move fast, to fill that gap. And that is what constitutes around $12 trillion of opportunity in the tech impact world.
Wow. I've said it before, it's an incredible time to be alive. I mean, sounds like there's so much opportunity today and in the future to make a good return on your dollar while having a positive impact in the world for not only today, but for future generations. It's a great conversation piece, not only for friends, but also for family. It's got to be such an incredible experience to be doing what you're doing. And I want to thank you for all of your insight and your wisdom and sharing with us your knowledge. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you over these couple of videos. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for watching. I know you're very busy. I really appreciate your time. As always, consider the source. And again, from Eran and Michael, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.